Hi, welcome to Unit 1. Now that you've read through the syllabus and you've taken a look at some of the information, maybe even emailed me with some questions, let's dig into the first unit. I'm really excited to talk about this unit because it shows a shift in not only the historical events in the time period, but it also shows a shift in literature, specifically American literature. Things like the copyright law and the different influential people and politics during the time really kind of played a pivotal role in shifting our writers' kind of attitudes and the way that they saw things. Now, prior to this time period, and when we're talking about this time period, we're working with the first volume in our American Lit series. This is the volume that is working with 1865 to 1914. And so we'll be working with this for a couple of weeks. So when I refer to the text, that's what I'll be referring to. You'll see a lot of great information in there. So with that, I know it looks big and intimidating, this big volume of literature, but there's a lot of great things in here. So please just give it a chance. And I promise, I think you're gonna like some of it. I hope. I promise you'll find some enjoyment in there. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen with you. We're gonna go over to the ULearn page. So I'm just gonna go ahead and click on that real quick. And hopefully you were able to watch the syllabus video, download the syllabus, check the announcements. The announcements do line up with the syllabus content part. And if I have any updates or anything like that, or if we decide as a class to do a certain activity or something like that, maybe hold a Zoom meeting, that's where I'll post those announcements for you. Those announcements are important. If you go down to Unit 1 where it says Realism in Literature, 1865 to 1914, this is where you're going to find Lesson 1. And the lesson is really important because as you work your way through the lesson, you just keep hitting that next page, you're going to see that it lines up with what you're reading in your text. So anytime you have some assigned readings, know that there will be some videos, some artwork, a video by me kind of explaining some of the details of the time period as well. So when you click on the lesson, it will show up for you in those parts. Each lesson follows the same pattern. So I always start off with an introduction of the lesson and the unit. I try and show you a few related videos to kind of wrap your head around the time period a little bit. And then we dig into the reading a little bit more. You'll see the assignment and rubric listed in there, as well as the discussions. Now, even though we have 8 weeks, we have 6 discussions. I do that on purpose because in the midterm week, week 4, and in week 8, our last week, our final week, you'll see that I have you email me instead of doing a full discussion with the class. That email is your chance to kind of express how you're doing in the course, ask questions, talk to me, a little bit more in a one-on-one terms instead of an open discussion. So that way you can feel free to ask questions and get help as needed along the way. So that's why we have 6 discussions and 2 check-ins. You'll see that in there. So I also listed in here for you in that block, I put in here kind of quick reference points to week 1 discussion, the essay assignment and description, and week 2. So the essay assignment, that's where you'll actually submit your essay when you're ready to hand that in. So I put those quick links in there for you. They're also in the lesson. So you don't have to go all the way back through the lesson to get to them. Once you go through the lesson once, you can actually just use the quick links to go back through and submit your discussions and things like that. So I just wanted to take a minute to explain that part to you. And as we get to Unit 2 and then Unit 3 and then our final reflection unit, you'll see those blocks open up as well. I'm in as a student right now. I'm showing you what view you'll be seeing. You might see a few different parts on here on my page, but for the most part, this is what you'll be seeing in the course, the way it's laid out. So these won't open up for you until we get to them. But if you do have questions, you can always take a look at the syllabus. You can look ahead to some of the reading. I list all the reading in the syllabus. So if you get a chance, maybe you get some extra time, which I know that's in short supply often, right? But if you do get some extra time and you say, hey, you know what, I want to kind of read ahead, it's listed in the syllabus for you, all the reading that we're going to be doing. So you don't have to wait for the reading at least. That way you can kind of jump ahead if you want to in the reading. All right, so let's talk a little bit about realism. You've probably taken a guess at it by the title of it, what it's called, that we are dealing with more of the realistic side of American literature than the romanticized side of it. So if you take a look at the little introductory part of the textbook, I did post that that in your reading for you, so you can get a little bit of background and introduction. We are working our way, further away from authors such as Emerson and Harriet Beecher Stowe with their romanticized kind of idealism that they're working with. So when they were writing to showcase what people should strive for, what they should want to see, versus showing reality. So you'll see as people went through things like the Civil War and some of the great things that Americans went through, they were striving for different things. They were changing. The American landscape was changing a lot too. We saw a lot of Western expansion, but a lot of that expansion was based on capitalistic ideas. So many of the people who expanded westward for the big land grab were kind of pushed out by big corporations, like the railroads. So you're going to see some of that push and pull in the literature. You're going to see it described a little bit in books like The Octopus. And things like that, where it's talking about those overreaching companies and how the people were kind of not happy with that. This industrialism that was going on, people were not really too keen on that. And so you'll see some of our authors, like Ambrose Bierce, really telling things kind of how they were in a realistic sense. And a lot of people, tended to like that. We also see some of the authors we're going to be looking at kind of portraying different parts of the country. So Kate Chopin is going to talk about life in the bayou, right? And what it was like to be a female during that time. So we're going to see a lot of different voices, not only our female voices coming through, but also some of our different ethnic groups coming in too. You'll see some of the voices coming in from the immigrant groups, from the Native Americans. There's a nice mix in each of these units, but specifically in this one, we'll see a nice mix of that. I've posted some great resources for you. One of them is a nice website. It's called Varieties of Realism. It's from Washington State University. It's talking a little bit about an overview of realism, what it is. There's also a nice timeline in there too. So it shows you kind of how the authors and the time period kind of match up, what was happening during the time period and who was writing about it. We're going to see authors like Walt Whitman and Leaves of Grass, his big culminating long novel filled with all these different poems. We're going to see how his writing kind of shifted a little bit because he did experience the Civil War firsthand. He wrote letters home for soldiers. He saw firsthand what that did to people and families. So you're going to see some shifts in some of the writers' perspectives and what was going on. What else can I tell you? Books like Upton Sinclair's book, The Jungle, portrays what it was really like when everyone was pushed into the cities to get jobs, right? So when all these different industries, expanded west, and took over land, a lot of the people were forced into the cities, and life in the cities was crowded and the work conditions were awful. And so The Jungle, the book The Jungle, you might have read that in high school. If you're familiar with it, great. If not, check it out and you'll learn a lot about what it was like before things like labor laws. Right. So a lot of times these big corporations would, or these big companies would, work their people, hours on end. There were no child labor laws. There were no labor laws at all. If you got hurt at work and you couldn't work anymore, tough luck. You don't have a job anymore. So things were really, really bad. And Upton Sinclair wanted to showcase that in his book. This is what's going on. There was a lot going on in politics too. A lot of the officials were corrupt. And so in turn, many people were able to get away with these things, even at the cost of our workers that we're seeing. There was a big surge of immigrants coming in. So you're going to see a lot of those voices come through. Many of our authors are going to talk about what it was like. The good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So we're going to see a lot of that truth coming in. So with realism, note that there's a lot of different forms of it. And I tried to get kind of a smattering of the different forms coming in. And you'll see some of that portrayed, but know that if you are interested in reading something in the textbook and I didn't list it as required reading, know that you can read it and still talk about it and write about it. For the sake of time, I chose different readings to try and get a variety in there, but by all means, there are a lot of great readings in here. So please check it out, thumb through it, see if there's any that really stand out to you. Because again, in just 8 weeks, we can't get to everything, but know that you have access to all of that and you're more than welcome to write about it. All right. So you'll see in the introduction, it talks about the role of women, industrialization, naturalism, the new American empire. There's all kinds of great information. Now, why do I want you to read that? Because it gives you context. Before you get into the actual literature, I want you to know what was going on during that time period. So you can kind of start putting ideas together, where are the influences coming in? Why did people start reacting in this way? What was really happening? It gives you some context, right? This is going to take us through World War I, and you're going to see a little bit of change coming in with World War I. Toward the end, you'll see that it's going to take us into more modernistic ideas. And know that the authors writing during this time didn't say, oh, you know what, we're going to start a new thing. We're going to start a new time period. No, scholars looked back at these shifts and kind of put them together in this way. So know that it's not perfect, right? So I hope you enjoy the readings. I've got a lot of great readings posted for you. I mentioned Whitman, Twain, Kate Chopin, Emily Dickinson, W.E.B. Du Bois. There's a lot of great writers that we're going to be talking about. I look forward to doing some of these readings with you and working our way through the first unit. But as always, if you have any questions or if you're not understanding something, please reach out to me. We can set up a meeting. We can talk on the phone. I can walk you through some of the readings if you need some help analyzing, if you are struggling with that. Also know the Writing Center tutors are available and Smart Thinking is available. Smart Thinking is our online tutoring system, and you can set up appointments with online tutors at Union, at the Writing Center, and in Smart Thinking. So you have a lot of great resources. I really look forward to talking to you in the discussion, getting to know you a little bit more and hearing what your thoughts are about these works. Have fun. Enjoy the reading. I'm hoping you do, and I'll see you in the discussion.